Hello and welcome to another edition of TMAT Talks. I'm your host tonight, Tiberius, and I am joined by Centaur.
Ahoy!
And Rythbryt.
We are back.
And we are here to close out, or at least we'll see how long this goes, but hopefully we will close out the top 50 slayers for the forces of good, which became like 65 actual profiles.
Yes, correct. Yes, we had some honorables.
Yeah, but we are at the top 20 tonight.
Yes, we are.
And our objective is to push through them. If you haven't watched the last two posts that we've done for this, you'll see 21 through 64, 65.
Yes.
And so you can catch up on all that for all that you've missed. Put the pause button. We'll wait for you to catch up.
It'll be a bit.
It will be a bit
long.
Yes.
I'm trying to be thorough.
Very thorough, exhaustive discussion. So, all right. So we have decided in all of the previous posts, we have kind of previewed them 10 at a time and then talked about how they juxtapose against each other. We are going to skip that tonight, and we are just going to dive right in and work our way up. So finish your brackets as we get in here.
This is the pantheon. I mean, all these models are really, 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 really good, and then we get to the upper echelon. There's a lot, so we felt like these were all worth talking about, and you probably want to hear something about all these, and it'll allow us to go into why we had them higher or lower, or where they ended up. So, yeah, that makes the most sense, I think.
All right. So starting off first, we have in slot number 20.
No, I just want to reiterate.
One other thing.
We left off. This is the 25 on, right? So these are the 5 models that didn't make this. Eorl the Young at 25, Boromir of Gondor at 24. That's the Fellowship Boromir. Durin at 23, Beachbone at 22, and the Champions of Erebor on Chariot at 21, which is a travesty. But the according to the collective, not me, the collective, these 20 models, there's an argument at least that these 20 models are better than those models and all the other models that we've talked about.
Right. Fair enough.
Whether you agree is another matter. We don't agree, but that's okay.
Now, it is important to note, we sat down before this and we ironed out that of the top 20 models,
we did.
16 of them showed up in my top 20.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few people that I devalued my framework coming into play. And there were a few people that scored really well in my framework that you guys thought were just not worthy enough to sit here. And that's fine. Centaur, you had 17 of your top 20 in the top 20. So again, pretty much agreement. And Rythbryt, you had 22 of your top 23 models
are in the top
23 models. So pretty much nailed them on the head here.
I guess that means I shouldn't be upset. I am still going to be upset.
Well, yes.
Well,
considering your number
I'm
one,
upset about the Chariot. The Chariot does not belong outside
was
the top
21.
20. Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, there you go. That's fine. You're right. You're right. I mean, look, these are. If you've been following along, you know which 20 models these are. There's no secret. They are all here. There's not a single model here that should be, that we haven't already mentioned, right? The ones that are left are the ones you expect to be here.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the least B fleet of the upper echelon, and that is going to be Amer.
Yes.
Knights of the Rittermark.
Marshal of the Rittermark.
Yeah.
Probably on a horse. Mm-hmm. Of some kind. I assume that he has a shield.
You would take him on the horse.
And probably has the throwing spears as well.
And look, that's why he's here. He's 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate, defense 7.
3
he
attacks.
Can strike, 3 attacks, 3 wounds on a horse. Like an armored horse at that. He can take the throwing spears to give him added punch. With the Rohan army bonus, he's +1 to wound. Not +1 to wound. Usually +1 to wound. Yeah. If you're fighting odd defense stuff. Goes up to strength 5, which is really good. Can't piercing strike, but whatever. Yeah. And then potentially he's re-rolling all failed to wounds, right?
So he can have an additional +1 to wounds if either Durnhelm, Eowyn, or Theoden die.
Right. Which look, then he's basically
strength
7.
He's effectively strength 6 all the time, strength 7
right.
on the charge if he's on a horse. Like there's a lot there.
He's really good.
He's crazy.
And yet. So, and again, I just want to, we're going to bash all of these models and praise all of these models. So, by this point, if you've been following along, you know this. There's no shame in being 20th in this list of 20. These are really, really good models. If you like Amer and you had him in your top 10, That's great. More power to you. He is only, and again, we're splitting hairs at this point, but the splitting hairs, and I had him at 30. So he's the one model that I feel is sort of out of place. Nothing against Amer. Amer is awesome. He is only fight 5. And so that means getting to fight 10 with a strike, which he can do, but getting to fight 10 with a strike is, it's iffy for him. He's usually going to cap out, the odds are about 8.5. 8.5 is very good. And against monsters, like, that can't strike, that's plenty good. Like, you're going to get over a Mordor troll or a Dweller in the Dark or a cave troll more often than not. And if you don't, you've got enough wounds and fate at high defense and high strength if you're on the charge. Like, cave troll, if cave troll wants to rend you, cave troll wouldn't, because they got a big old burly hammer or whatever. But, they're going to be forced to wound you. Gulavar is going to need 3s. But anything that's, I guess cave troll is going to need 3s too, right? You're on the charge. Not cave troll.
Strength 5 still.
Mortar troll, strength 7 troll are going to need forced to wound you, right? But, 4s and 3s, it's about as good as you can. You got the 3 wounds, you got the 3 fate. You're defensive enough, you can survive arrows. You got 3 will, which is not fantastic for dealing with magic, but it's good enough for dealing with magic. It's about as good as you're going to do in this list. So.
Two things on Amer. I've been using Amer a lot in the Men of the West Legendary Legion, which is probably the worst legion to take him in, to be completely honest. It is the only legion where he can begin the fight phase at fight 6. Mm-hmm. Why? Anyway.
Yeah, that's another discussion.
That's another discussion that we will can for today. But I will point out.
But the discussion is we all think he should be fight 6.
Yeah. Well, I think he should at least be fight 6 in his legion.
Sure.
There's an argument for game balance that he shouldn't be fight 6 in other legions, but I think that that's all baloney. Point though being, the great thing about Amer that you find out when you run him in the legion, when you don't get access to the Thorin Spears and you don't get access to any of the horses, is that he is affordable. Which is something that will not be true for the vast majority of the models we're going to talk about. You can't just drop this into an army and build out a horde, right? Whereas, Amer and 10 Warriors of Rohan is very cheap. You can slot that into almost any points limit and buff out your numbers for an army where everyone has bodyguard. That's really awesome. I evaluated him, though, for this evaluation in his own legion, the Riders of Amer Legion. And the reason for that is because in my evaluation, I wanted the 12-inch buff, right? Okay. In that legion, he gets the 12-inch buff for strength +1 on the charge, which is worse than the normal Rohan army bonus, but makes him score a little better in this legion.
Sure.
And so for me, he's also still in that legion, 120 points max. He's very cheap, hits hard, right? And so long as you can make sure Gandalf makes sure whoever he's fighting can't strike, he's pretty reliable at getting the higher fight value, knocking a lot of things over, dealing lots of damage.
And then tech on Look to the East and giving him -1 to the dual rolls, like you're going to kill a lot of stuff that turn.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Amer's your man. You've been arguing people should take Amer for forever.
Amer was my first hero, by the way, in this game. When I first started the game in 2010, he was the first hero I ever bought. It was also, ironically, my first eBay purchase. I love him. I confess, I put him 30th. I am a little surprised he made it this high, but I am happily surprised.
I had him at number 14.
That's why he
placed this.
That's why he's here. But no, I think he's solid. He's just good all around. And I think that's part of why he makes it as high as he does.
Yeah. Is he as good as the champs on Chariot? No, he is not.
No.
But he scored higher than them. That's fine. What do we think about him compared to, we're doing the comparison thing, like Beachbone, Durin, Boromir, Eorl the Young.
So both
our next batch here.
So both of you
and
guys.
Theodred, if you want to throw Theodred.
Yeah. So both of you guys had Amer about the same ranking as Eorl the Young.
I did.
Within a few places of each other. I had Eorl a bit lower than Amer. And that's because I didn't give Eorl the strength +1 on the charge.
Oh, okay.
Because I think he operates better when you when you bring gambling along too, which makes you lose the Rohan army bonus, but doesn't give you any other penalties.
Yeah.
So that way you can keep the might train going longer. And so his damage output is just a little bit less. He's also a little less resilient.
Yeah. This is the 2 fate.
Yeah. It's a trade. I think Eorl is really good, and you can run them both together. So there's a good argument for doing that.
He's tankier than Boromir. He's got the mount that Durin and Beachbone don't have, right? So I guess that's the difference. I had Durin and Beachbone slightly. I had them higher. I mean, they are fight 6 and above, but I mean, the knockdown is a thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the threat range too. Like the advantage that Amer has is not only does he have a 10-inch charge, he has 8-inch throwing spears on top of that. So Amer is a more versatile model in that sense than either of those two, which are only 6-inch models.
Well, I mean, certainly over Durin, Beachbone can throw a stone.
That is true.
From
I
far
am-
away.
They're the same difference.
From the
With
same
a good
range.
shoot.
Nope, that
the
is
same.
that's very true.
So there's that, but he's not moving.
Right.
He's certainly not moving as much.
Yeah.
He's got to stand still to do that. So, yeah, it's a great model. Amer's a great model. Very resilient. I think that's probably his biggest selling point.
Yeah.
Like
He'll
the
last
mobility
for
is
a long
great.
time.
There are a lot of heroes though coming up. I mean, basically they're all mounted. They can fly. Coming up. There's a couple exceptions. But he's three wounds, defense 7, 3 fate.
Yeah.
With a shield.
Yeah.
If you need it, with 3 attacks on the ground. Right. So
Yep.
he's fairly tanky.
Our model number 19, just narrowly edging out Amer here, is Caliborn from Lothlorien without the horse.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause-
Without the
For
horse,
whatever reason,
he is better.
there's no horse. We don't know why,
yes.
but here we are.
I actually had Caliborn ranked a little bit lower than Amer in my estimation. I had him number 20.
I had him at 20 as well.
Rythbryt, you had him at 20, higher than you had Amer.
Correct. I am above Amer.
And then,
And then
Centaur, you had Caliborn
Just a few
few
points
points
higher.
higher.
Yeah, I
at
had
26.
26. Yeah,
That's
26.
right. Yeah, 26. Yeah.
So obviously, the thing that hindered Kellborn in my estimation was that he didn't get the benefit for mobility.
Yep.
Yeah.
For not having the horse,
Mhm.
and he doesn't really have buffs that extend the radius that Amer
Well,
can.
He does, but one would never take
You
that
would
buff.
never channel Aura
Oh.
Command just to get a 12-inch buff.
Oh no, I was thinking of the
Courage,
boost the courage
right?
value
Yeah.
of
Oh.
the dudes in your orbit.
I mean, hypothetically, against
If
like
you-
a Riders in Black army, like if you knew you were fighting Riders in Black, useful upgrade.
Like if you
That's
could,
about the only
if you
situation I
could
can
do it to Galadrim guards, you might think about it to get them
Yeah.
to courage
So you're
7.
not
Yeah.
Guards of
But,
Galadrim
yeah,
or
Right, but you can't.
potentially.
You can't do that. You
Right.
just do it to the basic Galadrim, which
Yeah. Well, so,
I mean, courage 6 is good, but for a point,
yes.
Gungalad gives him an extra fight. For a point, you would.
Oh,
definitely take that.
I agree.
Totally take
I
that.
agree. I'm just going to say, like, again, in a very, very rare situation where you're fighting like an Angmar army, or more importantly, a Riders in Black army, the combination of +1 courage on top of your resistant to magic special roll that you're getting is kind of nice.
Well, yeah, but
But-
if you're taking Caliborn, you just pop R of Command,
That's true.
and then everybody auto passes.
Yeah. Well,
so,
but,
and you do that for
but,
free.
but that's an immobilize you can't cast. So I like
Well,
immobilize,
yeah, but-
so I don't like-
Frankly,
Yeah.
what I think they would actually benefit from, in order to not only make it appear more like how it is in the movies, is for you to upgrade either, Wood Elf warriors and Galadrim warriors to Lothlorien Guard or, something like that, Galadrim Guard or whatever. And it allows them to not count to your bow limit. So you make your bowmen more
That'd be interesting.
expensive.
Yeah.
And you can run the Haldir with all bone armed Wood Elf warriors, or Haldir in armor with all, whatever things. And all you have to do is bring either Galadriel or Caliborn with you, and bam, you can have an all.
Take that, Rangers of Athelion.
Take that, Rangers of Athelion. We got blinding light and all bows.
And strength 3 bows.
Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be brutal.
Ooh,
That'd
that'd
be
be
so
brutal.
fun to
That'd
play
be
against.
awesome.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Anyway, so Caliborn
So
himself,
look,
as an actual model.
Yeah. For Caliborn for an actual model. Look, he's fight 6. He's got an elven mid weapon. He can strike. Like that's
He's
the
Lord of the West
trifecta.
on top of all
And he's
that.
the Lord of the West on top of that.
Strike or defense, depending on how confident you feel
Right.
about
But look,
actually beating your
In
opponent.
terms of your ability to win fights, the things you want are high fight, which he has. Fight 6 is very good.
Yep.
An elven mid weapon, which he has, very good. And the ability to strike. It's very good. And,
And
then
reroll
you've got
dice.
the rerolls. And then you got the reroll from that, and then you can, and the spell work is all extra, right? You can throw enchanted blades on yourself and do whatever else. The advantage to Lorien, which I figured out when I was playing around with them, is you can actually take a lot of elves in Lorien. So you actually have more of a chance to get trapped with stuff because you're high fight, and eventually you're going to because your elves, especially if you go the armored route or you go a mix of armored and wood elves. So you got the defense 6 for the resilience, so you're not dying if you do happen to botch. Not that wood elves are bad, but you can definitely toward the late game have more models than your opponent if you're playing defensively with them and all that other stuff early on. So no, he's really good. Again, he's a member of the 3/3/3 club. 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate. He's got the resistance to magic. If you've got the army bonus, so that makes him even more resilient. I mean, the only thing he lacks, he lacks 2 things. He doesn't have a +1 to wound unless you 2-hand with the sword, which you can do, but it costs him something.
You can also,
unless you do the enchanted blades.
You can channel enchanted blades as well. Which
you've got
+2
a couple of turns to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Like
so
once.
Again, he's good. I have him at 20th, so I think this is right about where he belongs. But the models that are coming all basically have +1 to wounds
with no penalties.
or strength 8 because they are strength 8 or whatever else. So it's a thing, and then of course the lack of a horse is a thing. Still a really good model, but
it's a thing.
That's what holds him back.
It's a pain.
Can he beat the champ chariot? Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not on this up. Can he beat Durin? Now we had this discussion when we were talking about foot models, and I actually did a 180. I changed my thing, and I've got Durin ahead of Caliborn just by 1 slot.
I have Caliborn ahead of Durin, and I have that for 2 reasons. First of all, Durin and Caliborn start at the same fight value.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are mounted.
Correct.
So, both of them have to actually deal damage. They have to try to get the traps. You have a pretty decent chance of getting traps with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But assuming that you're not trapped, Durin gets a +1 with a reroll only on the to wound roll. Caliborn can have a +1, or even potentially a +2, with a reroll on both, and potentially all the rerolls on the other side of the, on the dice. And as someone who recently let his son discover the Fall of Khazad-dûm scenario,
yes,
I have recently been using Durin against the Balrog, and it's not fun because for Durin, because you can be strength 5 if you piercing strike, in which case you are wounding him on 5s.
Right. Well, that's not
which is
terrible.
Which is not horrible.
Good.
If you get the trap, which in that scenario you've got tons of models, so getting the trap is not that hard. Yeah. But you got to actually win several times and get the 5s, and it's just a pain. Whereas if you are Caliborn, you can't piercing strike, so you're going to win on 6s by 4s. But if you get the +1 to wound by 2-handing and just save a might point to boost it, and if you channel enchanted blades on yourself with a second might point, then you don't wound on 6s by 4s. You wound on 4s by 2s. And if you get that kind of a trap, you're actually going to do more overall damage, especially if you're re-rolling all fails. So to me, it's like, there are certain situations where if for 1 turn you throw Caliborn in and you just say, this is the turn where I'm going to charge the thing that I need to crack, I think you can crack things more reliably than you can with Durin.
Yeah. So just to set this up, so I think this is worth exploring because would we all agree? I think these are the 2 highest unmounted models that are not monsters, right? Yes. I think that's right. And I'm just looking at the list here. I mean, I like Thrain, maybe. And maybe Gimli, but even there.
Excluding Strider from the Return of the King Legendary.
Right. Oh yeah. No,
I think the community would generally agree.
Right.
These are 2 of the best, if not the 2 best, unmounted heroes who are not.
Spoiler alert, he's coming, by the way. We're talking about it later. It's actually a while from now before we talk about it. You're right. Yeah. So here's my only pushback on Durin versus Kellborn. All that is true while Caliborn has might and will, which is a maximum of 3 turns, unless you're playing a weird, funky scenario like Contest of Champions, or no, not that one. Whichever one, the Lords of Battle, or whichever one gives the hero a might
is
point.
your army leader, because the leaders in Contest of Champions can get like that. Lords of Battle otherwise.
Right. Yep. So whichever one that is, right? So there's a couple of special scenarios. Now that helps you with But again, that doesn't fix the will problem.
It doesn't fix the
So unless you've got Gandalf strengthening his will, which you could have,
or Bombadil.
or Tom sure. Well, okay. Fair enough. Everybody with
Or
Bombadil.
Bomber.
Sure,
Or,
right,
you know,
yeah. But unless you build an army,
Storm
and at that
cover.
point you're usually giving up your army bonus. Let's bring Gandalf because Gandalf's in the Fellowship, whatever. But like, look, that is basically a 300-point model.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that model
That's
should be
expensive.
pretty good.
That's expensive. Yeah.
But absent that, I agree. He probably has the bonus, but against Durin, like he still needs to roll what? To wound Durin.
6 is typically.
So strength 4 is going to wound defense 9.
9.
Assuming that Durin
Yeah.
doesn't piercing strike.
Right.
Right.
Which he wouldn't. Why would he do that? He's not going to need more than a 5 to wound Kellborn.
Well,
right?
so
Sixes.
it's going to be 5s if he doesn't piercing strike. It'll be 4s if he does. Assuming that
No.
Caliborn is defense 7.
No,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
6s,
yeah, yeah.
then he
So it's 6s and
becomes
then
5.
becomes 5.
Well,
Yeah.
So
because the
it's
actions are
5s if he
plus
doesn't piercing strike.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
he becomes strength 5 and normally wounds on 5s, which turns into 4s.
Sure, but why would you? I don't know why you. I mean, I'm playing Durin. I'm going to find him normally. I'm going to win him on 5.
I'm just giving the option.
I'm going to keep the defense 9 because
Right.
he wounds on what?
On 6s by 4s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it'll be 6s by 4s.
Right.
Versus winning on 5s, or 6s if Caliborn says, I just decide not to strike and I'll call defense instead.
Sure.
Because that's the other cool thing about both of these models that we're talking about. Is they both have the option to either strike or defense.
Or defense.
So
Yeah.
if they're
Well,
like, I don't feel good about this, I just call it defense, and I let you have the higher fight value, right?
Sure.
And I'll just count on
Yeah.
rolling well.
I mean, I feel like in this particular circumstance, Durin probably doesn't call defense because it's already 6s.
Yeah, it's already
anyway.
6s.
Yeah, there's no reason
So,
for him to do that.
yeah.
He goes for this strike, and
But,
maybe
yeah,
Caliborn
so-
matches, or maybe not. I mean, Caliborn's got the Elven made weapon. That is a thing.
That
That is a thing.
Because once money is
So,
out,
yeah, again,
it's going to be a
Caliborn's advantage in this particular fight, he's got the 3 fate.
Yep.
There's only 1 for Durin. He does have the 6
One with a 6 of save, if you
Right.
count that.
which I don't.
Right, but he doesn't have Thor's thing,
There's
so
no
he
Thor's
doesn't
thing.
get it on a 4+ for free, right? So he's got 1 actual fate point plus the 6 save. The 6 save maybe saves 1.
Mhm.
Boom. But so that's sort of Caliborn's advantage, and then the magic, right? He can
Yeah.
transfix or do the enchanted blades or whatever, which ups his canon value while he has will. And then if he doesn't have the will, then you revert to
I don't.
Durin, and I
very
think
well.
if Durin survives that, whatever the might off is, he's not going to have the Elven made weapon, right? So that's going to be a thing. But they're both re-rolling a dual die. They're both re-rolling a 2 wound die, right? Or does it's Durin's
so Durin's is just
the dual, yeah. But even so, like he's winning on 5s versus
Yeah.
6s by 4s. So I
feel
feel
like
like
the 3
that's an
attacks on both
advantage
sides,
for
that'd be one
Durin
wound
if
for
he
Durin.
survives that. So it's a real close.
Yeah.
It's close. It is. But that's, I think I went slightly higher with Durin just for the attrition.
Yep, 1 slot.
But
I went slightly higher with Durin. I confess it, and mostly just to do with the fact that that +1 to wound is a little more reliable. That's really all.
that
I can
was
say on
that was
it.
my thinking too.
But
And against
Yeah.
more things.
But I mean, yeah, if you were to tell me that Caliborn placed higher than Durin, I'd understand. Like,
I mean-
And this is again
Yeah.
4 slots higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're effectively,
the same.
the
I mean, Durin's not he's gonna need 6s against anything. No, 5
5s
against anything defense 8 or below.
less. Mhm.
No worse than a 5. Like again,
Which is the
we're
vast
getting to
majority of
models
models.
where I mean most of these models have that, right? So
Yeah.
that's and Caliborn again, I want to short shift Caliborn. He can do it too, because he's got the 2-hander. So if you need to, you can do that.
it's just
And he's
more
got
risky.
the reroll as well. Right. Well, I mean it's more risky unless you've got like a bajillion guys in the fight.
Yeah. And then it's less.
Plus you got Lord of the West, so like
You've
even
got Lord of the West.
and
so you don't
potentially a
have to-
banner. So
Yeah, you
you know
don't
the
have to.
chance you get a crappy roll is pretty low actually. You're basically rolling 5 dice to win the fight.
Cover your ears, children.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
There are young ears who do incidentally listen to this
Yes,
podcast.
yes, there are.
All right, so moving on to, speaking of not having a mount, we have in
this one-
slot number 18, a model who does have a mount, and it is Thorin Oakenshield, King Under the Mountain.
Yeah.
This is, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, this is the only version of Thorin that actually made the top 50, right? Because the other versions of Thorin didn't get
I want to say 50 is Thorin as well. Yeah, regular company Thorin is at 50.
okay, all right. So the other 2 versions of Thorin hit 50 and 50.
I had him at 25 for the record.
he was unfortunately not valued high enough. And I think we said in the podcast where we covered Thorin
Yes.
and young Thorin, I specifically said I didn't value Orcrist enough, and he would have broke my top 50 just barely. So
Yep.
Thorin Oakenshield from Thorin's company is clearly a top 50 model, at least in my mind and in your mind. Thorin Oakenshield, King Under the Mountain, was top 30 for all three
Correct.
of us.
Right.
I had him at 28. Rythbryt, you had him the highest at 15,
I have 15.
and you had him at 20.
20.
So this is about where he
Yeah.
should be from.
And in my
Pretty much
case,
both of you guys.
Thorin, King of the Mountain, is also my highest rated dwarf. In my opinion, I think as regards killing power, as regards general saying
That's
that
not
is-
true.
That is not true.
Sure.
That's not
That
true.
is
Who do I
not
have?
true.
Oh, right.
Clearly.
Never mind.
That is
Yeah.
clearly
Never mind. I
anathema.
forgot.
We
I
take it
forgot
all
No,
back.
no, it's not anathema because I have him ranked higher than that.
Oh,
But
really?
let's save that discussion for when we
No.
get there.
That
No, you
being
don't.
I do.
said-
I have Thorin at 15, and I've got the other one at 18.
You have a dwarf at 10.
Oh, well, okay, right, sure. I got that one.
And
No,
You
I
also have
think-
another dwarf at 1, if I'm not mistaken. 4
Well,
dwarfs
okay,
to be
right, sure.
precise,
So-
at 1,
Look.
which is not a profile.
So,
but there's-
all right, fine,
however
whatever.
you
Yeah.
cut
Look,
the pie,
look, this,
all anathema.
Thorin's
like we
great,
said, the
okay?
models
Yes.
are the models you think. So the models we're talking about, Dwalin, Champion of Erebor is coming, Dane Ironfoot is coming, and the Champ's Chariot. I had number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
so,
so,
okay, fine.
so
I've got
Oh, right. Also,
one
I
of
take it back.
those
I have another
dwarves
dwarf ahead of Thorin. But in any
of
event,
King
But
Thorin.
let's just be clear here. Thorin gets free heroic combats
He does.
Yes.
at fight 6,
Six.
probably with an elven made
With an elven made weapon.
on a go.
On a go
You
with
can be-
a +1 to wound if you want it.
Exactly.
and a chance to knock over the person before the fight even starts.
Right, if they're a man
Which
sized model.
means two hand. Because you're not taking damage.
No.
Right?
And
Don't strike.
For
You're not
me-
taking damage. You just rail away at the guy.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, the biggest problem for Thorin is the fact that this is not a 3-fate Thorin, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
It's not.
It's a
right?
one fate for it.
But if
That's
you
right.
knock the person over,
Right, you're not taking any
it
wound.
doesn't matter, right? That's the big thing. And I mean, it's not like you have a massive chance because it's only 5-up chance you knock them over.
Yes, it's not 5.
So like it's not great, but it's a chance. And so-
However, if you charge Thorin in and then
And then
charge
charge
another
a couple of
goat
goats
in,
in,
and then
right.
charge another goat in
Yeah.
until you knock him over,
So you're not going to
then it
yeah.
happens. And then you're like, free
And
heroic
then-
combat,
right.
the goats all go, whoop,
Oop, there we go. We're good.
and you're gone
Yeah.
again.
and you go smashing into things with those worst.
It's very effective.
Yeah, no, look, I had Thorin. I really struggled where to put Thorin and Dwalin and Dane, and I have Thorin second. I have him above Dwalin. I'll just spoil it. I have him above
Sure,
Dwalin.
that's fine.
That's not how the rankings worked out. The thing for me, look, Dwalin is amazing. Dwalin kills an awful lot of things. Dwalin is only 2 wounds, 2 fate.
Yep.
And Thorin is 3 wounds, 1 fate. I sort of like the 3 wounds, 1 fate. And when it comes to killing models, Dwalin is awesome. He's really good at killing things, but unless you're going to burn heroic combats, he's only going to kill however many things you can charge him into, which is 2.
Right.
And then if someone is stupid enough to surround him on a turn in which he's charged, maybe you kill more than that. Because you have the heroic combats with Thorin on the goat with the mount with the 4 attacks, 8 dice to wound on the charge at strength 4, which is good enough to kill most things. You kill more troops on the whole with this version of Thorin than you do with the goat version of Dwalin, not the chariot version of Dwalin, but the goat version of Dwalin. And you have the elven made weapon, and again, it's the same thing when we covered regular, company Thorin. Like the elven made weapon, like look, we're again cream of the crop here. Models with elven made weapons are just better at fighting heroes. They are. They win more fights. He can strike from fight 6. That's about as good as you're going to get for 90% of the models, hero models in the game. On either side is fight 6. The ones that jump to the top are fight 6 with elven made weapons because that's an advantage. If you have one, you are never going to lose a fight on worse than a 4+. If you don't have one, you may lose 67% of your draws, even if you manage to get to fight 10. So the elven made weapon, and if you're fighting somebody without one, and there's lots of heroes without, that extra 16% chance to win a duel on a roll-up is really good. And again, you're not taking damage if you're winning fights. So that was my That's why I'm above Dwalin. Lots of people are going to disagree. That's fine. I have Dwalin number 1, by the way, on the chariot. So I
There you
hedged
go.
my bets. But
Yeah, no.
on Goat, I like Thorin's killing power against heroes especially, and also against troops a little bit better than Dwalin.
Yeah.
I have to mea culpa this one too.
Oh, okay.
Because once
You didn't
again,
do the two-hander.
I didn't go two-handed.
Yep.
When he goes two-handed,
Yep.
I originally, and I'm walking in with it because it's too late to change
Yep,
it. I had him
it
at
is.
28. He jumps to 14.
Yeah.
Which basically means he boots Amer. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
guy's great. If I had him at 14, he would have ranked higher than a few other people, maybe
Oh, let me run
one
that
other
real fast
person.
here.
I think he jumps one slot.
He would
That's
jump to he would he'd be in on our tie that's
Yeah,
coming up here. So he jumped 2
So
slots.
yeah, I mean, even with that, okay, he's still going to be this good. He's still going to be about where this
Yeah,
is.
look, it's really hard to crack
he's
the
good.
top
He's good.
10.
But Thorin does give a good shake at it.
Yeah.
He gives a really good shake at
Correct, right.
it. And for only 135 points max,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is again affordable.
Max.
18 warrior slots too.
You take
so
18 warriors now. Look, if you take 18 of his warriors, you're going to run a lot.
You're
more
going to
than
run up the
Amer.
points, but you're going to run up the points. But
Yeah.
but it's going to be a good bulwark of troops that gives him the time
Correct.
to do what he wants.
That's right. Yeah.
Speaking of expensive,
Oh yes.
sitting at number 17,
The
I am tickled that he ranked this high.
third most expensive good
Good model
I
in the
think
game.
so.
I think.
tied for second
I mean,
most
depending on-
expensive.
I'm wondering where
Time.
what the bunny slate does for readiest points.
No, it's
that's
200. It's an even
Still
200
less.
with
Oh,
Sebastian.
well,
Yeah.
there you go,
Tie, this is
probably.
tie for the second most expensive.
Yep.
Right? Because
Yep.
it's just behind the chariot.
Right
right?
behind the chariot. Yep.
I think so.
This is, of course, Gandalf the White on Shadowfax.
Yep.
Woo!
Yep.
I am so happy he made it this high because I had him mid-20s, 23. Rythbryt, you had him at 22.
I told you too. Yep.
And Centaur, you had him
At
number
12.
12.
I want to say he's my highest Fight 5 hero. I think that's.
Well, he's higher than Amer.
I'm
Tied to
very
Amer.
sure he's
I think he's better than Amer.
He's your second highest because we have one more.
Oh right,
Rohan
hello.
hero
Yeah, I got one more.
One more
That's
Rohan
right.
hero coming.
He's special. He's
but-
not really Fight 5.
Yeah, but okay, Gandalf. Gandalf, of course, can knock stuff over with Sorcerer's Blast. He can do automatic wounds with banishment to spirit models.
Yeah.
He is Fight 5 with an Elven Made weapon, 3 might points, access to strike. Functionally, he probably has 2 might because you will probably
You'll channel
channel either Fortify Spirit if you're up against a lot of magic casters, Blinding Light if you're up against shooting armies, and Terrifying Aura if you're up against low courage.
Yep.
So functionally, he's probably a 2 might hero, but that is good enough when
Good
you
enough.
are Strength 5 on the charge with 3 attacks.
Yep.
And potentially +1 to wound, right?
Yep. If you want to,
potentially
and
be
your
+1 to
strength
wound.
5 as well, right? On
And
the
if you're
charge
charging
with
to
them.
someone that you have knocked over with Sorcerer's Blast, again, there is
Right,
no risk
reason not to.
to not 2 hands. Don't bother striking. You may have already done damage to them with Sorcerer's Blast as well. So they're already reeling. They will do anything and everything to not die.
Right.
They will be spending resources. You will not be spending any more resources. Job's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he is a pain.
He's a pain.
to
He's
deal
really
with.
good,
Um,
especially now that he can take troops, which I know we talked about when
Yes.
because he's. I mean, look, he was our number 1 spellcaster, and he was our number 1 sniper assassin model, I think, as well.
No.
Not everybody's, but he was.
He was certainly yours.
I thought he was yours as well.
No, I had Legolas above.
Really?
Yeah,
Ah.
I
Okay.
had the
And I
one
have
row.
no shame
He
about
should have
that.
been our number 1.
He should have been. Consensus high.
Look.
He was very good.
But the fact that he can lead troops means that you can buy time for him to do his thing, and you can bring foot guys if you want to just bring a lot of cheap foot guys. Like Warrior Minister is a pretty good 8 points investment. They're defense 6 with a shield. They die slowly very well. You can take them with knights, mounted knights or mounted Citadel Guard if you want to do more of the range shooty stuff. Complement him. And you take 15 guys, so yeah, that's real good. And you got him he's good ally choices too. Because Minas Tirith has some good ally choices. So.
To further gush on this guy, because I did have him the highest out of all of us, he's one of the few heroes that still remain in the top 20 who can neutralize 2 heavy hitters in a single turn.
Yep.
This
that's
is
true.
the thing that I really appreciated about him. And when it comes to slaying, it's really hard to get past that because he gives you the option to either, you can mobilize, you can sorcerer's blast the person that you're going after, which by the way, for I think both of those spells, you can do that at a 24-inch effective range because you have the 12
With a
inch
12 inch
on the
move
horse
and then 12 inch
plus the 12 inch on the other one. Obviously, you won't be
Well,
charging at
okay,
that
so
point,
it's going to be a
but-
23 and or 20 something
Yeah,
at
and a
range because
smidge, right.
you if you're going to charge something, you got to cast it and recharge it.
Yeah. So
It's a long range.
what it does effectively is it means you can remove a lot of stuff. This is one of those few characters that can say, "Oh yeah, I don't want that banner involved in this fight involving your major hero. I'm just going to push him out of the way. Doesn't matter if he gets wounded. I'm going to put him on his butt so he can't actually help. The banner effect suddenly goes away.
Yeah.
You do that on somebody like Boromir
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, where the other guy kind of anchored his whole army on the fact that there was going to be a +1 fight value bonus, which I think still stays. I don't think that goes away.
Well,
The banner. I don't
okay,
know.
so here's the deal, right? So yes, you can move him around, but if you're dealing with a banner, you knock him down
Right,
with
And-
the
and-
blast.
right,
And then the rule is you don't benefit
From
from the
active
effects of a
ability.
banner.
right. So
The
my
banner's
I don't.
prone, so I don't know that you.
Right.
I don't think you get the +1 fight value.
You
of the
don't.
center.
I assume
If-
you don't.
Yeah.
But
I
If
think that's
Boromir's
right.
knocked to the ground with Sorcerer's Blast, you don't. If the banner is a passive ability, then a command would not turn it off. Right?
Right.
The
Yeah,
plus
so
one
there's
fight.
there's
But if
potentially
it's an
two ways
active
you
ability,
can do it.
if it's an
Yeah.
active ability, a command will
Yeah, you
also
can't benefit
turn
from
off the
active
+1
rules, yeah.
fight from the banner. The
That's
actual
true.
6-inch. Ooh,
I'm not
that's actually interesting.
sure.
It would
Banner
still be
construct
a
is passive.
banner.
It is a passive ability.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
so,
okay,
yeah,
all
so
right.
they-
So
they
knock him over.
Let's knock him down.
So knock him over, and then yeah.
Or look, I mean, if he's out of will, you just a 6-inch command, and well, that's 3-inch command, so never mind, it's hard to do. Yeah.
Well, it would be 5-inch move if he's mounted, which
Right, but
probably
look,
is, right?
you get
So
this.
if he was just the people he was like right next to
Yeah.
will still benefit,
Sure.
but the people that he was kind of stretching to provide,
Oh yeah,
that's
sure.
all going to be.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
So,
So-
needless to say, he has a lot of answers, and then
Mhm.
obviously, we've talked about other spellcasters in this set and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He has the ability to break staffs, so he just has
Mhm.
so many ways to kill so many things. I haven't even talked about banishment yet. There's just so many
Yeah.
little tiny things that he checks the box for that, I'm not surprised he got this low because he has fight 5 to get started with, and he's only D6. But I don't know. I feel he offers so much.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased he made it into the top 20.
And I mean, even with the defense 6, which only defense
Defense
6. Like
6.
again, this is a reflection of the echelon that we're in. Like these are all. I don't think anybody here. No, that's not true. There's a handful of
Yeah.
defense 6 guys
At
left
this level.
who cheat because
Yes.
they got 3 will or 3 fate, excuse me, and they've got heroic defense. Gandalf doesn't have the defense, but you've got the 3 rerollable fate points. So, he's pretty survivable. And then Shadowfax has 1 or 2 fate.
So Shadowfax has 2 will and 1 fate,
2 will, 1 fate.
which can be used to resist magical powers,
Yeah.
targeting the mount or the model, and then of course saving
Yeah.
from no job.
I mean, look, if you have to fight, like you were saying before, there are a couple of models to come that can fight multiple big heroes at the same time, but that list is pretty small.
Yeah.
Gandalf is one of them because you transfix one and then you go in and strike against the other one.
Right.
Like, especially if it's a hero, like a monster, like a troll or whatever else that's, or one of the wraiths that can't strike or anything like that. There's you can actually have a good go at it. And again, you got an elven made weapon.
Mm-hmm.
The elven made weapon that you can 2-hand with to get the +1 to wound for effectively strength 7 on the charge. That's 4s to wound, defense 7. Rolling 8 dice if you're taking out your basic infantry guys. Like that.
So much.
And again, those models are probably prone to begin with because you do the sorcerer's blast or whatever else. Knock stuff out. You take out. Dealing with heroes on horses is not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can take that out, them on really well. You've got, as long as you don't lose the staff.
Yeah.
You can do stuff for a long time, and you're unlikely to lose the staff because you put Fortify Spirit on yourself.
Right.
You fight against the magic, and you can fight for days. So, yeah.
Any other comments on Gandalf the White before we get into our first tie?
Not that we haven't already said. Go check out
Yeah.
many things that we've said about Gandalf the White.
I love the guy. He's awesome. I'm gonna get the T-shirt.